Do androids dream of electric sheep? This video will be titled a review because that's what you do, but let's not call it that within the video because I just finished this book last night and my brain has not stopped swirling, trying to decipher this story and trying to figure out even where I stand with it. So I wanted to sit down and chat. I don't know how many people who watch my channel have read this book, but if anybody has, I'd really like to discuss it because I think that there's so much packed in these 210 pages, and I would like to make sense of a little bit of it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my thoughts and questions, and I would really just love to have a discussion in the comments about your experience with the book, how you interpreted certain things. I have zero notes. This is just going to be a stream of consciousness video, which works because that's kind of how the book felt at times. But do androids dream of electric sheep? Basic plot line. This is set in the year 2020 where the world has been kind of left in shambles after some war, and it's kind of just it's dead and dying. It's a dying Earth that doesn't have a lot left to it, and it's crumbling. And most of humanity has left and found a way to find a home on Mars, I believe it was. And technology has also advanced a ton to where androids are now basically, they have the same appearance and functionality, abilities as humans. Empathy is really, really important to humans. So there are these 6 androids that have escaped Mars and are making a life here on Earth impersonating humans, and it's our main character's job to find them, to determine who the androids are, and to eliminate them, to kill them. This story has a plot to it, which is kind of like this sci-fi, dystopian, noir sort of story where we have a detective who's trying to hunt down androids that are impersonating humans and eliminate them, right? But the plot itself, the plot and the characters themselves are fine, but they're not incredible. The plot is pretty disjointed. There are scenes that kind of feel like half of a thought that never gets completed. There's things that feel really out of place or things that just never really get explained, and you're left with far more questions than you are answers by the end of the story. There's concepts and ideas and subplots that feel really disjointed from one another. The characters aren't extraordinarily deep or complex, yet I think that the plot itself is quite interesting and quite ahead of its time. There's a lot that Philip K. Dick explores that I think is really cool to think about at the time that, the time that he wrote it and how much he kind of saw into the future. But at the same time, as far as just from a storytelling perspective, it's very clunky, and at times kind of a trip to try to follow his train of thought. But also, I really think that this is a book of themes and ideas more than it is a book of plot and characters, and I like that a lot. So naturally, even though I didn't always feel compelled to pick the book up and I wanted to be reading other things at times, every time I was in it, I was just so fascinated by it. And this is all done in this setting where Mercerism is the religion, and it's all centered around empathy. So there's a lot of real life, there's a lot of day-to-day things of how that affects you. Like, for instance, a very important part of Mercerism is that you have to take care of an animal, and animals are really few and far between. They're really hard to get a hold of. They're very, very expensive. And there's a certain classism that goes with this where it's very hard to obtain a true animal. It's very expensive and a lot of people can't afford it, and so they'll get these AIs, these robots that they have to maintain and pass off as real, because if you're not taking care of an animal, then you're not practicing empathy, so the world will judge you. And if you have a better animal, I'll sacrifice X amount of money, X amount of comforts, I'll do all this in order to get the best animal, the most rare, the greatest quality. So the point is to practice empathy by caring for an animal, but truly what it is a social status. It's how great of an animal can I get and afford, and if not that, then how great of an AI can I get and pass off as real? But then there's always the fear of being found out. So Deckard has electronic sheep on his roof that he has to maintain as if they were real sheep so that he can create the illusion of having an animal and caring for an animal. But there's this big conflict between him and his wife, this friction between them because she's overspending in his eyes, which means that he can't afford a true animal, which means that he doesn't have the social status that he should in his mind. And then there's also this ability to kind of connect your consciousness into this thing that connects you to everyone else that's connected, and you feel what they're feeling, and you kind of, it's this very empathetic thing where if you are experiencing emotional highs, then you would connect to it so that you can share that emotion with people who are struggling, and you can connect and unite in this and in this great, what would be a very wholesome thing for humanity to do. And Deckard doesn't want to do it because he just wants to enjoy his happiness. So every time he's confronted with an opportunity for true empathy, he kind of rejects it. And there's stuff that kind of crops up with Deckard throughout the entire book where, you know, the quest of humanity, and there's so many themes in this book: identity, reality, social status, class, oppression, empathy. There's so many things that get addressed in this story. But the one that really stuck with me the most is empathy, because empathy is the thing that humanity strives for, and it's the thing that humanity tries to connect on, and they have these social expectations of caring for an animal because of empathy, because it should enhance your empathy to care for something else. And the thing that makes androids less than human, even though they look like humans, they talk like humans, they act like humans, the thing that makes them not humans and that makes them objects and that makes them disposable is that they can't experience empathy. Yet, when Deckard gets to know androids better and gets to understand them better and sees that they're experiencing complex emotions and fears, and at times androids don't even realize that they're androids because they've had these personalities and memories and thoughts implanted in them. And once he realizes the complexities of androids and even falls for one, more or less, it's kind of, I guess you could argue, does he truly fall in love or not? I don't know. But develops a relationship with one, sleeps with one, has a distinct attachment to one, he still would go so far as to ask her to eliminate a fellow android because it's kind of difficult for him. It's not really desirable for him. So even though he has these ideas and he starts to question himself, am I really doing the right thing here? Is this really the quest that I'm supposed to be on? Is this really the right path? Even when he starts questioning that, the more he learns about androids, he still is so cold, so lacking of empathy, that this woman that he literally just slept with, like literally just had a very intimate relationship with, that he would accept her offer to kill another android. And the fact that he is questioning this job that he has, yet he still goes through and executes it. He still goes through to finish hunting down these last 3 androids and eliminate them. He finishes his quest despite wondering, is this the right thing to do? And why does he finish it? Because he's got a goat to pay for. Because with the bounties he's got from the first 3 androids that he eliminated, that he killed, he was able to afford the down payment of a goat, which, hey, that's a whole lot better than a sheep. That's definitely not a handful of bunnies. So he's got this goat, this female goat, black, I don't remember the breed, and And it's this scene that's kind of long of him bartering about the goat and him learning about it, and he goes in for bunnies, but then the person tells him, oh, you can afford more than that. And he's like, okay, what's the best thing I can afford then? So he puts his down payment on, but he's got to continue to make payments. And now he has a goat, a real goat on his roof. And now he's questioning himself, androids are not just mindless machines. They're not just lacking in empathy. And in fact, do they have empathy? Do they have more than I realized? But none of that matters because he's got a goat to pay for. And it's not just this matter of debt and I have to pay on my debts or else my family will be in danger. That's not his concern. That's not the issue here. The issue here is I have just raised in social standing. I've just raised in class. I'm now higher than I ever imagined I could be. I'm not sacrificing that. I'm gonna kill these androids, even if they might have more value of life than I thought. And it's just fascinating to me in a society that's literally built around empathy. And empathy is a thing that humans are supposed to be striving for, and it's the way to get them more connected to Mercer, that our character is faced with these serious questions and conflicts of his beliefs. But at the end of the day, his social standing, his own desires, his own ways of getting up in life is more important to him than those questions that he should be asking himself. And I just think that that's a really interesting thing that we got to talk about in this book. And like I said, there's a lot more going on in this story. There's a lot more themes that we could be discussing. But that's the one that I really latched onto the most because I think it was the one that was most forefront and prevalent and that I think Dick really explored the most in this story. And I just found it fascinating. But then I'm also left with so many questions, you know? Like at the end of this book, I'm left wondering, so was Deckard an android this whole time? I don't actually know. There's clues, there's hints that he was, but it's never actually answered. And what was the ending of that book? Was he actually connecting to Mercer, or was he just going insane? Was he just losing his mind? Who was throwing rocks at him? Was it Rachel after everything that he did, after the way he kind of devalued her and said, at the end of the day, even though I've developed feelings for you and you've declared your love for me, I'm still gonna kill your kind and I still view you as an android and I'm still going home to my wife. Like, after he kind of just used her and tossed her to the side and then she chucked his goat off the roof, did she then follow him and she was chucking rocks at him to mess with him? What was the point of the frog at the end? Why did we end the book on an electronic frog? Of all the things that we could have ended the book on, why this? Was it an indication that none of this was actually real? That none of them are human? That there's no such thing as a real animal on Earth anymore? They are all long gone, much like the owl that they tried to sell him as an authentic, genuine owl, but at the end of the conversation, they admitted there are no owls left. Of course it's not real. Is that the whole book? Is nothing real here? Are there no humans left? They're all androids? And these are just androids that have been shipped off to Earth and implanted with memories and ideals, but none of them are actually all the humans left? Are none of the animals real? They're all electronic and that's why we ended here? I don't know, that's kind of what I'm leaning toward, but I don't have any answers at the end of this novel. It's a book that I can't say I always enjoyed reading, or if I looked at just on a technical level, I could say is great, but it's a book of ideas that has me thinking perpetually. Like, since I finished it, I haven't stopped thinking about it. And I just want to discuss it because I feel like this is a book that I could read over and over and over and over again, and each time get a little bit more from and look at it from a slightly different angle. So those of you that have read it a couple of times, what did you think? Because I'm left with a lot that I would like to discuss. I am gonna watch the movie this weekend, Blade Runner, and I'll also be watching the second movie because my friend Tim, it's his favorite movie and I want to talk to him about it. But as far as the book itself goes, I'm really glad I read it. I thought that it was a fascinating story. I thought that it was definitely ahead of its time. Of course, it's a classic. There's a reason it's still relevant today. I thought that it was a fascinating concept, really, really interesting. It had flaws. It had very, very distinct flaws. I didn't even talk about them all. I could tell you the shape and look of every woman in this book's boobs, even the androids. Definitely some stuff that didn't age well, but it was also just really, really interesting. I like books where the ideas are so woven into the story and the characters that you kind of can't remove them from each other. And then I'm left with more than just a cool story, but with a lot to think about. And this book did that for me. So I'd really like to discuss it. So please chat with me about it. What did you think of it? What do you make of the ending? What do you think was happening on this earth? Because I'm not so sure. And what was your favorite theme that he touched on? I really focused on empathy, but there's a lot more that we could be discussing, so please chat with me about that too. I post videos every Tuesday and Thursday here, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on the other channel, which is linked in the description. I'll see you again soon.